When I was an intern at Nickelodeon Studios, I always used to view the cartoons before everyone else did, just to make sure if it was okay and there was no flaws anything that had happened. It was a new episode of FairlyOddParents and it was the one called Power Pals / Emotion Commotion. I had started the episode and the episode seemed to be pretty good, no flaws whatsoever. So when I took it into the room for everyone to see it, I didn't expect anything to happen other than what I had seen. Boy, was I wrong. We went into the room and started the tape. I walked out for a minute because I was expecting a call from a manager. He called and we talked about business for a half an hour. When I came back in, everybody looked at me, some questionably and some angrily, and I didn't know what was going on. They put the tape and it took a while to load, but when it did, the title card came up as Timmy's Wish. Surrounded by missiles, nuclear warheads, military tanks, landmines, and radiation symbols. I know that was not what I had named the episode, so I was confused just as well. The show started off with Timmy in the bedroom, once again being babysat by Vicky for 4 days. As his parents were out of town, she had him locked in his own room. The windows were shut tight, the door was barricaded, and there was nowhere to go. He was bored so much he was developing cabin fever. So Timmy just sat on his bed talking to Cosmo and Wanda. I wish I had lots of video games, toys, and Crimson Shin comics, Timmy shouted. Cosmo and Wanda gave him all that he had asked for. Wanda replied with, Timmy, have you ever thought of wishing for world peace? It's worth a try. Now I was really confused. I had never written any of this. So I thought someone had pulled a prank on me and changed discs to whatever they had. Anyway, Timmy replied, no, but I just thought of something. I wish I had. The audio after that was cut out almost as if it was censored, but Timmy was mouthing the words, something to create chaos, and then there was a poof cloud and Timmy had a bunch of knives all in various sizes. Thanks, he replied gratefully before he quickly fell asleep. Cosmo and Wanda were confused by what they had just granted and asked themselves, why would he need a box of knives? Then they fell into the fishbowl goldfish and went to sleep. I was too confused by now to think at all, but I kept watching. The next scene showed Timmy suddenly waking up and jumping out of the window, which was now open for some reason, but it looked like it was forced open. It faded into the darkness. A 2 hours later time card came up, and then he came back with a weird dark red liquid on his body, but it was too dark to see anything including his face. The way we knew it was liquid is because there were drops around him and trickling down his face and his body, tiny red streams. Anyway, he broke open the door, went to the bathroom, cleaned off the liquid, and went back to bed and fell asleep. The next scene made me gag. It was Francis drenched in a pool of his own blood and his face was cut open, his brains and eyes were removed with very little precision, and his tongue was ripped off. He had multiple bruises on his neck, leading us to the conclusion he was choked to death. First, on his stomach carved into his bloody skin were the initials TT. The picture looked so realistic it was sickening just looking at his carcass. As known, Timmy's initials are TT, so we can guarantee it was him. A couple of interns left while the others stayed. The second scene, holy shit, it was even worse than the last one. The head had been crudely chopped off with the arteries and veins jutting out. Still, the arms and legs had been slit open, with the blood vessels piled on top. His hands and feet cut off, and the same initials on his stomach. By his ribs, by the looks of it, were broken with a sledgehammer, and blood from the newborn holes. His lungs were seeping out. My goose, was his ribs were broken first and he suffocated to death because of it. Then he was cut. This person was without a doubt Mr. Crocker. We knew it was Timmy because it seems these two victims were Timmy's enemies. The pictures were so realistic that much more people ran out, just leaving 4 others in the room. Then it was morning and Timmy woke up. The knives were drenched in blood, and on the news the murders that Timmy committed were featured. Cosmo and Wanda looked at the news and then looked at Timmy. There had been no suspicion it was him, so he had nothing to worry about. It went on like a regular day, except of course no bullying, and instead there was a substitute until there was a new teacher. Then it was night time. The fairies went to bed, so did Timmy. By now I was nervous. The entire episode had been like this and was now almost over. Timmy came back with more blood than ever on him and a couple of scars. After he cleaned himself, he went to bed. The next day Vicky was on the news and the picture was so horrifying I lost my lunch. She had been brutally tortured with whips and chains and her whole body had been cut into pieces, with body parts lying all over the place. It was so realistic I couldn't hold it in anymore. Nobody suspected that a 10-year-old would do this. so nobody expected him. That night Timmy was going to go out the window when he saw a bunch of police cars and helicopters behind him. Wanda spoke. "I know it was you, Timmy. I've watched you, and so I called the police." Timmy then sat down crying. Dark red mascara ruined tires on his bed. He looked up at the screen and his eyes were in detail. The creepiest you've ever seen. They look like they were animated heavily. Not the really realistic, but not CGI either. He then whispered in an ominous tone, "Don't tell anyone what I did." He then took a pistol, dropped a folded note, and shot himself through the mouth. When the police they opened the folded note, it said, "You think I was murdering people? That's small talk. If I was murdering people, you all would be gone." That's when the episode shut off. I went to go grab the disc to see what it looked like and if it was my disc, but somehow was corrupted and thus was worthless. Still, I was able to see the disc rather than just seeing the episode again, but I don't know why I didn't corrupt the first time. It was shown. The creepiest part was this was my disc, my name, my signature on it, everything. Then around the time that the actual episode aired, it ran perfectly. No different than what I had watched originally. That episode would never be out of my mind, and we will never know how it happened to be corrupted or who corrupted it.